So, fellas, did anything else happen in sports this week?
I don't know. Saw some baseball highlights.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Olympic Games are now over.
Yeah.
There's a lot of yellow flags flaving.
Can't imagine why. Welcome back to Motorsport 101. Hey gang, welcome to episode 317 of Motorsport 101. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Mr. Dre Harrison, and speaking of intros and outros, since the recording of episode 315, I've now had a chance to watch said episode, now it is live to the viewing public. Ryan, Eric King, you had one job down there. You had one job with the outro. How could you butcher my legacy like this?
No, you see, this is perfect. So Ryan invented a word then. I just did one right now in this most recent intro.
Yeah,
and then you and RJ can figure out what to botch for the next week. It's a cycle.
King, I want answers. What happened?
I just goofed. I thought I had it. I just dropped it across the line.
You fumbled the bag harder than Dennis Schroeder.
Oh. My man went full Deshaun Jackson. He just drops the ball at the 1 yard line. Oh, we were so close, King. We were so close. What happened, my man? It's just like, I was deeply offended. For an entire week, I literally, in our supporters general, our Discord server, literally put, King, what did you do to my outro in capital letters? I was upset. But,
things were getting a little bit case sensitive.
Just to say the least. But we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the show in a minute, but we'll be talking all about Nashville's big return to the IndyCar calendar, their brand new street circuit, and how it didn't exactly go according to plan, to say the least. And we'll also be talking about MotoGP Styrian Grand Prix. They're back for the first time after their summer break, and the race was somehow maybe the third biggest story to come out of Styria this weekend. It took a big old backseat, and we got a brand new winner as well for the second straight year in Styria. We had a brand new winner. And it kind of was put on the back burner because a certain legendary figure in the sport announced he is hanging up the gloves at the end of the year. No, it's not Lynn Jarvis. Or Alberto Puig, unfortunately, in Cam's case.
Damn, what a... my disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined.
Yes. Honestly, I'd want to retire from my sport too if somehow my home country won the Eurovision Song Contest, won the UEFA European Championship, and also won Olympic gold medals in the 100-meter sprint and also the high jump. I'd be like, okay, I'm not topping this year. I'm out.
It's over. It's over. It's over. Like nothing you can do at this point validly. It's like Italy is doing backflips right now. A black Italian won the 100 meters. I'm just like, I was like, this is amazing.
Please,
the seeds.
Please let this dude be clean. Please let this one be clean.
I don't want another one of these. No.
I'm hoping for this, and I'm hoping that, I think for all of us, best moment of the summer limps in Tokyo, because, there are a lot of bad moments, maybe accidentally sneaking in a Lambda variant in just before the start of the games. Yeah. But best moments, Carson Warholm, Ry Benjamin, 400-meter men's hurdle.
That was my pick. Oh, I was going to go around the host and say, what was your favourite moment out of the Olympics? I did ask this on Twitter. But, for me personally, Karsten Warholm running a 45.94 in the 400 hurdles remains maybe the most bonkers lap of a track I have ever seen. And I was live when Wade Van Niekerk ran it flat in 43.03. Three of the four fastest 400 hurdles runs in history took place in that race. 3 of them were under the old world record that was only 6 weeks old in the first place. And Karsten Warholm ran sub 46.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing stuff. King, do you have any other amazing moments do you want to get through?
Probably I'd have to narrow it down to 2 other moments at the track. Mondo Duplantis fucking dominating the pole vault, almost breaking the world record.
Grazed it with his vest on the way down. I'm like, he was this close. Oh.
And then the other moment I have to mention is the women's 100 meters the women's 100 meters where Jamaica swept the podium.
Oh yes.
Jamaican track and field is back, baby.
Yeah.
For the record, me and King are both of Jamaican heritage, so as you can imagine, my house was hollering when we got the clean sweep. We were jumping on the sofa, and Elaine Thompson running quite possibly the fastest legal 100 meters maybe in history, depending on who you ask. Because, yeah, a 10.61 Olympic record out of nowhere. Like, what the fuck did we just witness?
Yeah, there was a lot of world records that fell this year.
Very fast track.
Yeah, and that was the third podium sweep in the last 3 Olympic Games. There's only been one at each of the previous 3 Olympic Games, and 2 of them are Jamaican, obviously. London 2012 and the men's 200, and now the women's 100.
That was the 50th anniversary of Jamaica's independence as a country, and that was Bolt, Blake, and Warren Weir. And again, every Jamaican in London was going ballistic. Nothing got done the following day. Take it from me. We were hollering. Oh, that was a great time. If any other moments you guys want to shout out there, RJ?
Skateboarding is full of is full of children. I don't understand. Because back when I was really in extreme sports, when I was about the age that most of the gold medal winners were in skateboarding, on average, most of the competitors in an X Games medal round are early, mid-20s, maybe late 20s, early 30s if they're pushing it. Now all the medalists are teenagers. I don't understand. Children. I can vividly remember when it was a big deal that Travis Pastrana, at the age of 15, was not only in a freestyle motocross competition, but actually winning gold medals. And of course, this was back before they learned how to do bicycle flips. In the cycling road races, somebody lost track of the leader and cost themselves a gold medal.
Oh my god!
Anna Kirchhofer, what a legend! Oh, that was amazing to watch.
I watched the Madison for the first time. That was just as King described. It was basically like a stock car race on bicycles.
Sorry, I'm just describing Laura Kenny and Katie Archibald's race in the women's Madison.
I didn't know we would have NASCAR 2006 Total Team Control, but with bicycles.
It was awesome.
People were very shitty to Simone Biles for unfounded reasons, but she did get her medal in the end, and we got Sunisa Lee breaking out all the stops to win gold in women's all around.
And to pull things away from America for a bit, we have to talk about Brazil getting their first ever medals in gymnastics, with Rebecca Andrade getting a silver in the all-around and a gold in the vault. And obviously this is a big deal in Brazil because she's a black athlete and they don't have many of those. And also, she had torn her ACL 3 times before these games.
Yeah, any basketball player that you think has gone through too many knee surgeries, Rebecca Andrade has gone through even more than that. Because
I don't know. I think we can have a 2-hour-long podcast between her and Derrick Rose for knee surgeries.
Oh, Lord of I knew her being a black Brazilian gym was a huge deal, but 3 ACL tears? That's big. Most players don't come back the same after 1, let alone 3. That's unheard of.
What else we watch? The penalty shootouts to decide. It was Canada versus Sweden. I think this was for the women's soccer gold medal, which went to penalty kicks, which went to an absolute shit show. A high drama shit show. Foreshadowing future discussion points, but still wild.
I'll reel off 2 for me. Robert Fink putting in the last 50 meters of the 800-meter freestyle swim. The most ridiculous 50 meters of swimming I have ever seen. He was nowhere with 50 meters to go. Passed everybody to win the gold medal.
It's like playing one of those Olympic video games with a turbo controller. It's just like, oh, I've turned the turbo on, and next thing you know, he's on the other end of the pool. It was ridiculous.
That one, and as a second one, Eliud Kipchoge is as box office a runner as a runner could be. He's not human. He's not.
28-degree heat in a Japanese marathon, and he's running 2:08. And that was a 14.
That's slow for him. That's slow for him.
There was a 14-minute 5K in the middle of that marathon. I'm just sitting there going, "What in God's name did they make you out of?"
He was built different.
Like, I understand why they had to move the marathon away from Tokyo, because traditionally the Olympic marathon is the final event, and it finishes in the Olympic Stadium, like, usually just before the closing ceremony. And if everyone saw him enter the stadium as far ahead as he would have, it would have been wild.
He'd have had the whole track to himself.
I think there's so many moments that think, man, I understand why we can have nobody in the crowd in the stadiums at all during this event, but could you imagine how just, like,
they would have gone,
the crowd would have gone in some parts?
They'd have lost their minds. Like, a couple quick ones for me before we move on to the actual motorsport, because we love talking the Olympics on these podcasts. We always do, and it's just a tradition on the show.
We don't get to do it very often.
The last Olympic discussion, the last time we talked about the Summer Olymps on that but that was like my first year on the show.
Couple of ones with a little bit of hometown bias. Jason Kenny becoming our greatest ever Olympian with his 7th gold medal in the Kia, and by going for a long sprint at the end and catching everybody napping was awesome. His wife Laura becoming arguably Britain's greatest ever female Olympian, because she got her 5th gold as well in the Madison, which was a colossal beating of the entire field in spectacular fashion, was up there for me. And the men's high jump, Barshim Tometa sharing the gold medal was one of the coolest moments I've ever seen on a track and field. I didn't realise the two of them were so close friends, and Barshim being the coolest man in the world in shades and just laying around everywhere, like, during the competition was amazing. They both, for those guys who haven't seen it, quick explainer, they tied after the competition had finished. They both failed at 2:39, I think 3 times over. They couldn't be separated on count back. They were going to have to jump off at a lower height to decide it. They was explaining the rules to them, and then Barshim immediately turns to the side and basically says, "Do you want 2 golds?" And them being the close friends that they are, they were like, "Fuck it, we'll take 2 golds," and then everybody is happy. Everybody is happy. Barshim, the coolest man in the world, starts bawling his eyes out. It was the Olympic spirit in one very, very cool moment, I have to say as well. That was awesome. For all things considered, it was a very fun games. I don't know.
All things considered, like, this was really fun. Could you imagine how much more fun this would be if, like, these Olympic committees weren't all corrupt as shit to some degree?
I know.
And we weren't in the middle of what is now a resurging global pandemic because, well, you know.
Yeah.
No, I also have to mention one particular moment that really stood out to me about how superhuman these athletes are. Have to talk about the highest weight class in weightlifting.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my goodness.
Lasha Tallahassee from Georgia, just casually breaking the world record in not only the snatch and clean and jerk, and obviously the total for the competition.
He almost lifted 500 kilograms.
Half a ton.
He beat the rest of the field of people by over 10%.
Yeah, he beat the field by 47 kilos total. It's like his 3 lifts had started when everybody else had finished theirs. It was the most unbelievable spectacle I have ever seen at an Olympics. Where it's like, this guy's in a totally different sport to everybody else.
Yeah, and like everyone's talking about how, young he is, because he's relatively young in weightlifting terms. He's like 27, and talking about how in Paris he could theoretically break the 500 kilo barrier for the total competition score.
WWE should just hire this dude to do all the shit Braun Strowman used to do before he jumped the shark.
we should separate this into its own little Easter egg episode, given we've just spoken about the Olympics for
a good 15 minutes. It wasn't worth it.
Don't care.
Yeah,
don't care.
You'll either figure out, like, in post, if you're listening to this, whether I edited this down or not.
You'll never know.
We don't get to talk about the Olympics that often, and it just so happens that this year... Yeah, this year happened to be a good one.
It was a good one indeed. Should we talk some motorsport, fellas?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good idea. We're talking Nashville for IndyCar and MotoGP and Styrian all over the next 50 minutes or so. But in the meantime, you can find us on all sorts of places. We're on youtube.com/motorsport101. I've got it on the TV now as a plug. youtube.com/motorsport101. You can subscribe to us on there.
This is ascended advertisement.
Meta. YouTube.com/motorsport101. We're on Facebook.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101. If you want to find our personal handles, you can. If they're on the screen right now, if you're watching on YouTube. If not, they're at Harrison101HD, at RJ O'Connell, at Ryan Eric King, and at C Buckley 917. We've got a website, Motorsport101. You can follow us on Instagram, Motorsport101pod. You can follow us on there if you like. Extra bits and pieces on there, as well as notes when new shows go live. And if you really, really like us, you can back us financially on Patreon. Patreon.com/motorsport101. $5 gets you early access to all of the audio versions of our shows. You can upgrade to $10 for the video version and access to the supporters club of our Discord server, where you can listen to these episodes live as they're being recorded. Some of you guys in the chat are right now. Shout out to Vic and Finley. Good to see you. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Right, without further ado, let's get into IndyCar's return to Nashville. RJ, the floor is yours.
Holy shit. What a wild weekend that was. First, inaugural Music City Grand Prix in downtown Nashville. Built around scenic Nissan Stadium, home of your Tennessee Titans, but not my Tennessee Titans. I could care less. Interestingly enough...
This is we shit.
Yeah. Not including red flags, 2 hours and 18 minutes. Average speed is 72 miles an hour. If you include the red flags, this race took nearly 3 hours from start to finish. We almost hit sunset. 9 cautions, 33 out of the 80 laps, 2 different red flags. Here's some of the shit that happened. Dalton Carrott's steering wheel fell off the car in the first lap of the race. Scott McLaughlin, in between one of the best saves I've ever seen, coming off the hellacious transition off of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Bridge and down into Turn 9, going on to Interstate Drive, which trouble spot all weekend. He gets taken out by Ed Jones, and then he gets taken out by Will Power, who decides he wants to turn this into his own, rendition of the Penske games, because he bounced off him, and then he also checks up in the Simon Pagenaud, and that causes a track blocker, which causes our first red flag, 1/4 of the way into the race. We get all that sorted out, and then Rinus VeeKay spins on his own. Cody Ware, who, through sheer force of will, works his way up into the top 10 on merit, spins, stalls, can't do a 3-point turn, and is parked for the rest of the race because he can't maintain a competitive minimum speed. Pato O'Ward barges out Xander Rossi to the wall in a race which has huge championship implication because that just dropped him down to third in the standings. Colton Herta dominated this weekend. Fastest in first practice, fastest in second practice, just beat the brakes off everybody in qualifying and said he was going to win this race. 39 laps led, more than anybody else. But then, after getting away with locking up into Turn 9 with about 12 to go, he then stuffs into the wall with 5 to go and brings out our second red flag. And then, of course, we got to talk about Marcus Ericsson. Marcus Ericsson, before the 5th lap of the race, goes up to 3 meters up in the air off of the back of Sebastian Bourdais' car. Bourdais has to retire, and he is not happy about it at all. Ericsson has to go to the pits twice. He has to go get a penalty for getting repairs while the pit lane's closed, and then he has a stop-go penalty serve for the contact with Bourdais. He somehow, after 5 pit stops, and after all these yellow flags and stoppages, Marcus Ericsson wins the race from 18th on the grid, holding off Scott Dixon with 2 laps to go after the second lap of the race. and James Hinchcliffe getting his first podium this season doesn't even register like the top 10 weirdest things that happened on this afternoon. I'm going to say my thoughts on what I thought about this race, but what y'all think of this?
Oh,
painful.
Lord. It was... Admittedly, the last portion of the race was fun. It was entertaining.
Yeah.
But everything it took to get up to that point was frustrating. It was hard to watch.
Let's put it to you this way. In our Discord, we have a good friend of the show, Patreon backer, and his name is Toki. We love him here. He's a very good sport. Toki is the biggest Marcus Ericsson fan you will ever meet in your life. Right? Loves Marcus Ericsson. He bailed while Ericsson was running second in this race. About 60 laps in. That's how you know this was painful to get to the end. King is absolutely right. The last 30-odd laps was fun. But it took 2 hours of pain, frustration, and I don't think we had a green flag run of more than maybe 8 laps.
The average green flag run was less than 5 laps. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, there was a spill of water, or maybe it was whatever kind of alcoholic spirits from the alcoholic beverage company that paid for sponsorship at Turn 3. Like, we had a whole spill on the track that lengthened one of these cautions.
Yeah. Oh.
It was one of the most farcical races I have seen in top flight motorsport ever.
This was a mess. This
man will power. He's got to go. He's got to go.
Stephen A. Smith. He's got full Stephen A.
extension.
I know. You think if he went 3 for 3 and hit Newgarden that Roger wouldn't have torn that contract up in a heartbeat?
Oh yeah, Joseph Newgarden, the home hero, bended in qualifying. Right? Not even in the top 20 weirdest storylines of this race. Jimmy Johnson, they'll tell you that he officially retired due to crash damage after that track blocker, 19 laps in the race, which is technically true. But he was also parked because his team tried to fix the car under the
disqualified. In the last official parking, we've gone back to this. We've looked through the archives. Yeah, and the last time... Shout out to supporter of the show, Jason, for finding this. The last time we can find an IndyCar Series disqualification that was not related to minimum speed was 1995 with Little Al Unser Jr., disqualified from a win, which was later reinstated postseason.
So then you have to go back a little bit further to find the next disqualification that actually stuck, and that's Robbie Gordon at Long Beach. Again, all things converge upon Robbie Gordon.
Yeah, keep in mind this does not necessarily include Champ Car and Kart because, well, we don't have... Some of those records are gone. Because that series is dead. I don't even know how to describe what we witnessed because after, like, the third 2-corner in caution, I kind of just disassociated for the rest of the event. Because if I didn't, I was going to lose my mind.
It was a test of patience. It was just like... The acronym FFS came up a lot when I was watching this race because it was like we just couldn't go more than 5 laps without another... What I liked is IMSA pit reporter Shea Adam on Twitter started counting not laps but minutes between cautions because we weren't even finishing single laps before we had a wad of cars in the wall. Yeah, ridiculous. You can't possibly say this was a good look for anybody involved, and I don't want to fully blame the track promoters and obviously the layout that came around as a result of this. The driving etiquette was poor across the board this weekend. Some guys made errors, that's one thing, but the racecraft was bad from certain people.
It's something that we normally associate with Formula E, where the drivers know overtaking's going to be at a premium, so they force the issue whenever there's the opportunity to even look at an overtake.
Yeah, the problem is one of the primary overtaking spots on this track you needed to get it. Both drivers needed to get it exactly right, or you were going to bang wheels, go wide. The car on the outside was going to go into the wall. Chances are the car on the inside was going to go into the wall, and then it blocks the track for half the field. It happened for Patricio Award and Alex Rossi, and it happened between Will Power and Simon Pagenaud. You know, Simon was putting together like the first really good race of the year besides Indy for him, and Will Power just dive bombed him, put him in the wall, blocked the track. Will Power is a world champion of this series. He is an Indy 500 winner. Statistically, he's one of the greatest to ever do it. And on Sunday, he looked like a rookie desperate for a result.
Yeah, it was a mess.
Unfortunately, two of his victims in that regard were his teammates.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the Penske debrief after the race was locking Will in a cage with Simon and Scotty.
With clubs.
And Scotty saying, "Who's getting fired now?"
Oh boy, that would have been fun. It's like, okay, we're going to put an angry Pagenaud and McLaughlin in a cage with Power, and there's only 2 contracts outside the cage. Whoever comes out alive gets the contracts.
I do like, just as a side note, I like that one of the first things Colton Herta did after he got out of the car, and we were worried about his hands because he didn't get a chance to take his hands off the steering wheel. I love that one of the first things that he does is drown his frustration and sorrows in cheap, shitty, buffet-style dessert pizza.
Yeah,
you gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah. Yeah, Colton was...
That is a man that's down bad.
Colton was incredible this weekend, and just got caught out on strategy. Got to Ericsson, but couldn't do anything with him.
Yeah.
And then... hurt that tire on a dive bomb attempt that was never really going to work. And that tire, a couple laps later, just gave up. He turned in, the car didn't turn, and he walled it pretty hard.
He did. Yeah, luckily he was okay. I mean, it won't be on YouTube because I don't think they put the qualifying sessions on there, but if you haven't, go out of your way to see if you can find the qualifying session, because what Colton Herta did at the end of that Saturday had to be seen to be believed. One of the single most impressive, Fast 6 qualifying runs I've ever seen. It was like he was digging time out from his shorts. It was ridiculous. He was
the only driver in the 113s.
Yeah, he was 7 tenths clear of the field in qualifying. He was the fastest man at this track by a country mile, and it was all for naught. Darn shame, because he was fantastic pretty much all weekend long. I'm too busy hollering at James Hinchcliffe finishing third to really emotionally attach myself to that at this point in time, because I was like, yes, come on!
That might be the only thing. Might be the only thing that will make me stomach this race.
We're going down. We know we're going down. There's a good chance Romain Grosjean's probably taking that seat next year, but we're going down swinging, baby.
His or Hunter Race, it may be. Marcus Armstrong just out there, obviously just taking in the Nashville nightlife. Wink, wink.
Of course.
I think
he's a tourist, just like Deanna was down there this weekend. Shout out to her at Relapse. But fellas, questions to ask as well. The track came under a lot of scrutiny. Given it was probably a good portion to blame for at least some of the wrecking that we had over the course of the weekend. I'm going to point this one at RJ first, because he actually knows the area, given he's a hometown Nashville kid. How would you improve it if you had the chance?
I defer to the words of the race winner, Marcus Ericsson, who, again, that he won from 18th on the grid on a street race where passing comes at a premium. That's already wild enough. That he won in the circumstances did, even more wild. And take it with a grain of salt, but Ericsson's suggestion, up at the north end of the circuit, right, that's that turn 4 to turn 8 complex, where especially 4, 5, and 6 was compared to the Castle complex at Baku. Only there's not as much cool shit surrounding it, because that's not in the coolest part of Nashville. Right. Maybe you could widen that.
I should point out that it's at the south side of the track.
That's at the south side. Okay, because the track map had that up north.
Yeah, the track map is inverted.
I'm so stupid.
Thanks, IndyCar.
So on the south side of the circuit, on the south side of the circuit, You widen that out by maybe a meter or two. You don't have to make it as narrow as Baku does. That could do that, along with just better driver etiquette, using a bit more discretion would go a long way to improve. Like, the tweaks that you would have to make the circuit to make a drastic quality of life improvement are very minimal, and it all is right around that section. Yeah. You widen it out just a little bit if you can, and I think that solves a lot of problems while also opening up an opportunity for more overtaking.
Yeah, so the big issue that pretty much Ericsson points out and RJ mentions is a street called First Avenue South. It is absurdly narrow. It is probably, obviously, I've watched pretty much every Formula E race. I've never seen a section of any Formula E track as narrow as that section.
No, me neither.
I think the easiest solution wouldn't be to widen that area, because obviously people live there, their businesses and homes.
Yeah.
It would simply just extend the track a little bit. Instead of using First Avenue South, you extend the run off the bridge down one more block to Second Avenue South, which is slightly wider. It's not, like, First Avenue South is not really a street, it's more like an alleyway behind a bunch of buildings.
More or less. You're racing down an alleyway, folks.
Yeah, so pretty much, like, it'll make that section of the track a bit wider. It'll also allow people to overtake off the bridge more easily, because the transition on and off the bridge is really rough, and you really don't want to pull out to go alongside someone while going over that transition.
Yeah, the
problems were twofold. Yeah, the problems were twofold, really, because not only is the track very, very narrow in some places, you can correct that, as King mentioned, by using different roads, extending the track in certain places. Yeah. What's going to be a little more difficult to correct is the Sebring-esque surface at some parts of the track, because the cars were bouncing up and down in the air on the transition up off the bridge.
And that meant that if you first practice, right?
Boing, 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 all the way down the track.
It's just like a fucking jolt once you come off the bridge back down the road. Interestingly enough, James Hinchcliffe told us, like, after the race, like, yeah, that transition's bad, but that's like the only trouble spot that they have. Like, if it wasn't for that, it wouldn't even be on the 3 bumpiest tracks that they race at, which I found fascinating.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, but specifically where that transition off the bridge comes, if you go offline there, you're either not going to make the corner because you don't have enough grip, or you're going to lock up because you don't have enough grip. It made overtaking there very, very difficult.
Yeah, not to mention, like, Marcus Ericsson's car was, like, fucking slippery as hell. I know they took some wing out of it, but, like, Colton Herta even matching the push-to-pass button was just like, I can't do anything with this dude. Oh, and by the way Ericsson's car came down and got damaged on I think it was, like, he had, like, a huge chunk of the right side floor taken out when he came down. Like, he didn't get out completely unscathed. I don't know how his suspension didn't break upon crashing down on the ground with the same sort of impact that ruined Richie Stanaway's ambitions of ever reaching Formula One back in FR 3.5 a few years ago. But
yeesh.
He had a huge chunk of his floor taken out, which made it hard for him to make the right turns. Luckily, it's an anti-clockwise street circuit.
Of course.
Of course. An anti-clockwise street circuit that runs past a 7-Eleven and a quality and a two-star chain motel. But this one just so happens to have a guitar-shaped pool.
Truly America's Monaco.
It's the world's largest outdoor bachelorette party.
Love it.
I hate it here.
Though, like, the one thing, that bridge is going to be an issue, because if you know anything about bridges, you simply just can't just repave a bridge.
Yeah. No. With all that in mind, fellas, should we come back? Is this a one and done? Like, is some work going to have to come through here?
I think we should give it one more shot, but the track cannot continue to exist in this form. Some changes do have to take place.
Not a lot, but some changes.
Yeah. They have to correct a couple choke points on this track, because it's just, these cars are just too wide. The drivers are too eager, and we got way too many incidents to leave a good impression for a first race here.
I wrote about it on Race Fans. I understand that, like, having a colossal shit show of a race year after year is not sustainable. But I will tell you this. They fucking pack the place every single day. Because here's the thing about Nashville as a city. Like, of a lot of the places in America, it has legitimate racing heritage. People love to go see automobile racing here, whether that's at the Fairgrounds Speedway or what have you. This event, as an event itself, this was a success. 70,000 people in here, probably their first or second big post-COVID event. And they are just, and don't get me wrong, like, a lot of the grandstands were not actually built until the morning of the race.
Yeah. As a side note, Grandstand 6. Initially, they intended to cancel and refund those tickets, and a dedicated group of track workers stayed overnight in the pissing rain to get that grandstand built in time for race day.
70,000 in the heat and humidity. But I'll tell you this, as much of a farce as that race was, there is potential here for this event to be as much of a fixture on the calendar as Long Beach or Toronto when we're not having COVID, or St. Petersburg. There's more character in some sections of this track than I ever saw out of, like, dull, decrepit shit boxes like the fucking Astrodome parking lot, where we somehow managed to finesse 2 races a year out of.
Honestly, I'd say, like, even in its current state, this track is better than, say, Exhibition Place in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The bar melted and is on the ground in a puddle like the T-1000 from Terminator 2.
Like,
What I'll say is,
if I had to just quickly summarize, like, this race and its future, I'm just going to simply say Nashville deserves better. Like,
yeah.
This is the best option that they have. I mean, what else are they going to do? Tear up the contract and go race in some characterless mile-and-a-half oval out of the suburbs? We did that for 8 years. It's time to move past Nashville Superspeedway, which is in Lebanon.
Why not both? As a serious note, what I'll say is it is not hopeless. The bones of a good track and a good event are here.
Yeah.
But they need a
There's
proof.
something here. They do. They do. That's fair to say. No, I'm like, I haven't got anything else to say that the other guys haven't already said. I think there's definitely potential there. The atmosphere was great. I saw the fan reactions down there. There's clearly people were clearly really excited for this race, and it showed on TV. And as Zoe points out in the chat, drivers were still out enjoying Nashville 3 a.m. on Monday. The joys of following James Hinchcliffe.
Yeah, this is the perfect. These are the perfect building grounds for what could be a really great event for IndyCar.
Yeah,
agreed.
That said,
they just got to tweak the track, and people just have to drive like not idiots.
Yeah, and honestly, like for decades, like people talked about competition between IndyCar and NASCAR and them racing at similar venues, and even IndyCar cannibalizing its own markets. I think, like, say, if IndyCar went back to the good old days of giving places to race dates, if we have a street race at Nashville, say late in the season, but early in the year we race the super speedway, I would have no problem with that.
I mean,
that'd be great.
I mean,
I think that would be a perfect solution.
I just think long term, like, the street circuit is going to be a better place for racing.
Yeah, it'll be a better draw.
Because, like, you know, I could see a race at Nashville Super Speedway. There's like 1,000 people there, and you just have to flip a coin to see if the oval package is actually conducive to good racing or not.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And look, I saw people that never tweet about IndyCar tweeting about IndyCar this weekend. I saw Spencer Hall talking about driving over that bridge, and I just thought, yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that it got featured on people that don't normally talk about IndyCar. So look, there's definitely potential in this venue, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah,
sorry, I know I'm up in my feelings because once upon a time I used to live no more than a 2-hour drive from where this race took place. But I mean, come on. There's
God, I wish I had that emotional attachment to New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
That sounds. I'm sorry to say this, Cam. I love you, but that sounds like a you problem.
I have no bones with that. I have no problem with that. That is a me problem, and I own that. NHMS sucks.
That's fine.
Fair enough.
Stop racing in the rain at an oval, guys.
Shout out Eric Almirola. Shout out
Indeed.
Marcus Ericsson.
Hey.
Kings of the shithouse victories. Cam, old people are doing things. Old people are making proclamations. Old people are making pivots to sports cars.
One very interesting, very legendary old person. Some old Italian guy called Valentino Rossi. Easily the biggest story out of MotoGP this weekend was the announcement that, yes, Valentino Rossi is retiring at the end of the 2021 season. In what can only be described as an extraordinary 25-year career, the 42-year-old will retire with at least 423 race starts, 363 of those being in either 500cc 2-strokes or MotoGP 4-strokes. Let's just rattle off the stat sheet right here. 9 world championships, 55 pole positions, 115 wins, 199 podium finishes. It's all right at this whole riding a bike thing.
It's decent.
We don't know exactly what Valentino will do in his future, but he has openly expressed a desire to race sports cars, as he's done as a bit of a hobby in the last few years, with the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the World Endurance Championship being a long-time goal for him. As well as, in his old age, starting a family.
Yeah, well, he's finally settled down, the old boy, as well.
Jeez, it took him long enough. Totally minor, just uncontroversial story.
No,
what do you guys
no.
think? What do you make of it?
It's like finding out that Santa isn't real. It's just like...
It's a shock to the system.
It's one of those stories where it's like, you know it's coming, but when you actually face the reality of it, it still hits you. And this sport will never be the same without him. There is... And look, you're talking to a guy here, you're listening to a guy that has openly expressed he is not the biggest Valentino Rossi fan in the world. And I'll tell you this for free. This sport would not be where it is today. It might not even exist, period, if it wasn't for Valentino Rossi. I grew up in a time...
Not in this form, no.
Like, I grew up in a time in the late 90s as a kid where World Superbikes was still the most prominent, relevant series, biking-wise, that people would watch. Carl Fogarty, Troy Corser, Noriyuki Haga.
Mick Doohan was so dominant in 500cc 2-strokes that he made everyone think that there were no other good riders in 500cc.
Exactly. And people were bored. People didn't find Doohan great to watch, so they watched World Superbikes where it was competitive and fun, and Carl Fogarty was a hero in the UK. Like, they made video games after him, for fuck's sake. He was that popular over here. Which I still have. I've got a copy of Ducati World downstairs. Point is that Valentino Rossi fundamentally changed bike racing forever. There is no argument in my mind about that. He was incredibly dominant. He had an infectiously likable personality that captivated sports fans the world over. And he turned the sport into a watchable, likable brand. That's something that, you know... He was gold dust. They don't make them like that in sports every day. Like when we throw the word GOAT around an awful lot in sports discussions these days. I do not exaggerate when I say that Valentino Rossi is a genuine sporting icon. I work in sports all the time. I work in the bookies. The one bike guy people mention is Valentino Rossi on a casual level. They don't talk about Marc Marquez or Jorge Lorenzo or Dani Pedrosa, Kenny Roberts, or anyone else from the multiple eras of the sport that he has spanned. It's Valley. The yellow helmets, the doctor, the winning, the showmanship, the charisma. It's all Valentino. He's the reason why we're here, most likely as bike fans. And that just about sums it up for me. I don't know if anybody else has got any thoughts on that, but RJ,
My power just... Am I still here for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Okay, very good. You saw that light flash, right? Jeez.
Yeah, I did. I was like, hang on a minute. Yeah.
It really is hot outside.
Yeah.
Go on, RJ.
Look. Go ahead, RJ.
Yeah. It hits different when you see, like, a list of, like, the 10 highest earning athletes in the world at one point in time. And especially, like, during Valentino Rossi prime and Valentino Rossi, a motorcycle rider. You realize how niche this sport is. It's like a niche within a niche. And Valentino Rossi is up there on, like, the highest earners list with, like, Tiger Woods in his prime before the Perkins incident. You know, it's wild, and it's well earned because Prime Valentino Rossi was like the one serial winner that we could all stand. Because, like, at a certain point, everybody got sick of Schumacher winning all the time. Everybody got sick of Sebastian Loeb. People blame Sebastian Loeb for the reason why WRC isn't what it used to be anymore. You know, nobody likes a serial winner, but Valentino Rossi somehow managed to do it. And did it with multiple manufacturers. He decided, right, I've done everything I need to do with Honda. I don't like these guys anymore. I'm going to go to Yamaha. And then I'm just going to build upon that legacy exponentially. About the only manufacturer he couldn't work miracles with was Ducati, but that was kind of out of his hands. Just showmanship, charisma, likability, everything that Dre said and then some. Like, I'll tell you, like, I'm so glad I got to grow up in the time where Valentino Rossi was just doing his thing every other Sunday.
Cam?
He is the one motorcycle rider who absolutely transcended motorcycle racing. There is a reason why there is a racing game called Valentino Rossi, the game, that should have been a MotoGP game, but was really Valentino Rossi's everything with an engine.
Yeah.
Everything he stepped onto that wasn't a carbon fiber frame Ducati, he won on.
Uh-huh.
Against all the mightiest riders of his era, of the Alien era, and he even held, in 2015, he came damn close.
Yeah, that's the thing we'll always talk about.
To one last championship, even 15 years on from his debut in the sport in the top flight.
That's the thing.
He rode two strokes.
The second win. Nobody ever carves out like a career, like into their mid to late 40s.
Post-injury as well.
Yeah, he's already fucked his leg.
Badly. He shattered his leg in 2010 and he still came back.
Yeah, and it took him time. He won on 2 strokes. He won on 4 strokes. V4s, V5s, inline 4s, 1000cc, 800cc. He did it all.
We didn't think
and
until
up until
these last 2 years, you'd never think he'd fall off.
No.
Yeah, he was never the best qualifier, although saying he was never the best qualifier and 55 pole positions is quite a terrifying statistic.
He's still third on the all-time list for pole positions in all classes. Only Doohan and Marquez have more.
But until these last couple of years, really until the Michelins came in and really started messing with everybody up and down the grid. He was always the Sunday man. He always had the speed on Sunday when it counted.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not an exaggeration. I know this was mentioned within the paddock, but he's very much the Michael Jordan of MotoGP. He made it a global, watchable entertainment sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the amount of people... That's not to cut you, Cam, but the amount of people that made tribute saying that Valentino Rossi was their hero growing up, riding motorcycles. Alex Rins, Alicia Spargaro, the reigning world champion Johan Mir, well, like Maverick Vinales, Fabio Quartararo, they all said the same thing. I grew up watching Valentino, which also makes us all feel really old being a bunch of like late 20-somethings on this show, realising these are world champs that are like 5 years younger than us, that are literally like young enough to possibly be a son of Valentino's at this point. But, yeah, they all said the same thing.
Look, when you see that 46 in that font in that color, you know.
You know who it is. Yeah. You know exactly who it belongs to. And yeah, oh my god, like where do you even start on such on a career so legendary? But I'm going to go around the room real quick because if you had to pick out just one Valentino moment as your favourite, which would it be? This is going to. I think I get a very mixed response here, but
I've got one.
Go on, Cam.
I think I was 5-6 years old at the time. He got a penalty at Phillip Island.
I know this one, yeah.
And we had never seen Valentino Rossi at 100%. Not really.
Yeah. Not
until that day. And he was pulling times over a second a lap on everyone. And he was unstoppable. That was one of those, in that era, you didn't really see those bikes move around a lot. Post two-stroke, the chassis tech wasn't super advanced like it is now. And you could see just the way he was riding the bike. This is Sim riding at the absolute limit of his ability. And the gap between him and everyone else that day was as big as I have ever seen in any form of motorsport.
I think he won by 15 seconds on the road. He was given a 10-second penalty for, I think it was overtaking under yellow flags. And I think Rossi later himself admitted that was the only race he'd ever been at 100% right from the very start. Because he knew that anything less we wouldn't have won, and he absolutely curb-stomped the field. RJ, you got one?
I'm going to go with the cliche. I want to go with the cliche response. It has to be Catalunya 2009. It just has to be. Jorge Lorenzo is like the one teammate that Rossi has had in like a long time, maybe ever, that has pushed Rossi on equal equipment as hard as he had. He is hitting his stride. And you think with a corner to go that Lorenzo is winning this race because the last corner at Catalunya is not known as an overtaking hotspot, but Valentino Rossi pulled the up and under on him. That's still one of the most special races. I know it's a cliche. I know it's probably like everybody's number one answer, but it has to be. What other moment could it have been? Maybe you're thinking start of 2004. Maybe the start of 2004. It's Rossi's first race at Yamaha, and I believe it's Matt Biaggi's first race at Honda.
Yeah, they both swapped around.
They flip places, and I'm thinking, finally, Matt's has it to where he's finally going to win his first title, because Valentino Rossi's just went to a mid-tier bike. Matt Biaggi, we know what he's done on a Yamaha. He's dragged that thing. Now we're thinking he's going to win the championship. First race weekend, Rossi edges out Bianchi and Biaggi, and yeah, it just plays out like for the rest of the season.
Only time ever in MotoGP history a rider has won back-to-back races with different manufacturers. Because he won his last ever race for Honda. And then before making the switch, and then he won at Fakisa in South Africa. King, you got one?
Well, I was going to go with RJ. with RJ,
yeah. But to be fair, Catalunya 9's a great pick.
Yeah, but another thing that came up during Rossi's retirement was a lot of people, including a lot of people on the server, saying that Valentino Rossi is the greatest MotoGP rider of all time. And my instant reaction was like, wait, no, he's not. How could you say something like that? Like, Giacomo Agostini's still alive.
It's like, Agostini's still here. He's still alive. They wheeled him out for the press conference.
Yes, and Agostini had made comments to the press about Rossi's retirement. And he was a bit critical, and he said that Rossi's retirement was a bit emotionless, and even though he admitted that, like, the minute that he heard about this press conference was going to happen, he knew that Rossi was retiring, and he recalled his own retirement from motorcycle racing, and he said that obviously that retirement is something that every major athlete has to think about, and it comes for all of them. They all have to retire at some point in their careers. And when he made the decision to retire, he cried for 3 days straight.
Oh, wow.
And he said that he could never be as happy as he was on a MotoGP podium. That he could be chosen as Italy's next president, and he still wouldn't be as happy as when he last stood on the podium. And that basically that your racing career is something that you'll cherish for the rest of your life. And when you choose to retire, that's when all that emotion it should hit you. That part of your life is gone. It's never coming back.
It's a very good point. It's actually a very interesting way of looking at it, because King's right. I think it was quite an emotionless press conference. It was all just like acceptance. It was just like, yeah,
I think it's been... we've heard so many rumors for so many years.
And we've seen his decline as well.
We've watched him slowly fall back, and really it hasn't been a long decline at all. Like, it was almost like a line in the sand where he started falling back.
Yeah, about a year ago today, I reckon, roughly.
Yeah. And I think it's just... I think he knew. I think everyone kind of knew. It was just really putting pen to paper. And I think that's why it kind of... At least the press conference kind of just felt like, yeah, cat's out of the bag, I'm retiring.
Yeah.
I think it's going to hit once we line up for the last race of the season.
Yeah.
And
we're going to have... I don't know what show they're going to put on in the final race of this season, but it's going to be...
better be like
tune in, because it's going to be big.
You remember the Richard Petty fan appreciation tour? If you at least read about it, I hope that's like that. The culmination of that times 10, because Valentino Rossi is about the only athlete that's, or other than Marc Marquez, that's earned like such a send off. And I like to think, and I know he's fallen off a bit, but wouldn't it be cool if he has his own version of the Kobe Bryant 50-point game on the way out?
It would be pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. No,
don't know if
I wouldn't say it's going to be the last race, but I think it's going to hit in Misano. Misano is going to be...
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be
place is going to be wild.
They've said, as well, full capacity crowd for Misano later in the year. That's going to be huge.
How do I speak in
so
Italian?
much yellow smoke. So much yellow smoke they can't even see the track.
Folks, I need to tell people in Italian, like, hey, if you haven't already, get your shots.
Please do.
Get your shots if at all possible, because you want to see this.
Yeah,
yeah I was going to say, just to add to that before we move on to the race itself, for me, it has to be probably the most famous MotoGP moment of them all, and that was Sepang 2015, and I know it sounds crazy.
Oh, stop it, Miss. I figured you were going to pick the one you wrote a book about. Oh, stop it, you.
But that's the point, Cal. I wasn't even going to mention it directly like that, but that's the point. It inspired me to write, writing an entire book about something is ridiculous, but it was the most high-profile clash of personalities, of past meets present, of fan base v fan base, of sporting culture that we'd ever seen on two wheels in one major flashpoint.
Those highlights nearly have 100 million views on YouTube. No other racing highlight has that.
Yeah,
this is a moment that... It was a moment that transcended sports.
Yeah.
Let alone
when it's being debated in Italian and Spanish parliaments, you've transcended sports.
Seth Rosenthal, John Boys, if you're listening for video ideas, we got one for you.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
It's but if excluding shit that I wrote about, Laguna Seca 2008, I think is right up there as well. His race with Casey Stoner,
that other great pass,
which was one of the most intense, like half a races you will ever watch in your life. That didn't quite go over that line like Sepang did. It was one of them. Yeah, it was one of the most incredible fights ever on a MotoGP track. Like Stoner going around the outside of turn 1 to overtake Valentino Rossi at 170 miles an hour. You don't do that.
You don't do that at Laguna Seca.
No, and then Rossi cutting him apart of the corkscrew to overtake Stoner is just the stuff of legends. It's one of many incredible Rossi highlights, but yeah.
If I get a second one in,
go on, real quick.
He was one of the protagonists in the greatest fight, the greatest race for my money that I've ever seen. Australian Grand Prix 2015.
What a
Valentino Rossi, Marc Marquez, Jorge Lorenzo, and Andrea Iannone. Remember when he rode a motorcycle?
I know.
Ooh. Beating the shit out of each other. Beating the shit out of the seagulls. Beating their tires. All race. There are so many moments in that 25-year career. Please, if you are a long-time motorcycle racing watcher, or you're just starting out, go watch some. You'll find some that you like. That I promise you.
Great. And if you don't, the celebrations are pretty great too. And that's part of the reason why people watch, because we were curious to see what will come next. Him jumping into a Portaloo. Genius. You would never think it would be, but it was. Valentino Rossi, we're going to miss you, one way or another. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more again in November when the season finishes. So talk a little bit about the race itself.
Yeah, we actually had a race as well.
Yeah, apparently so. Let's talk about it. The MotoGP Styrian Grand Prix, and it wasn't without some scares, because Austria can't help itself, unfortunately. Nasty incident that caused the red flag between Dani Pedrosa and Lorenzo Savadori. Savadori losing control of his Aprilia, Pedrosa hitting it, and then the Aprilia bursted into flames. There is a superb picture you may have seen on the internet of Dani Pedrosa looking on in the background as the track's on fire, and I just immediately thought, new meme format just dropped, because it's an incredible photo. It really is. If you haven't seen it, go out of your way to find it. It's a crazy picture, but it's an incredible bit of photography, I must say. Luckily, everybody relatively okay. Savadori just broke an ankle. He's had surgery on it. He's recovering now. He's missing this week's race. He'll probably be back for Silverstone in 3 weeks' time. But thankfully, everybody okay. We got going again, second restart. And it was Jorge Martin and Johan Mir that broke off from the rest of the field. Quartararo didn't really go after them all that hard. The only other major protagonist was Jack Miller. He crashed with about 8 laps to go, just went in too hot at turn 7. Very strange incident there, just went in too hot. But, yeah, it was Martin who had qualified on pole position against Mir, who had a new ride, height adjustment upgrade on Suzuki, much more competitive. But it was Jorge Martin that broke away at the end of the race, and MotoGP has its 6th different winner in just 10 races so far this season. And let's not forget, this is Jorge Martin's 6th ever MotoGP race. He was badly injured in Portimao, missed 4 rounds. This is only his 6th ever race in the top flight.
He's still recovering.
Yeah, 2 podiums, 2 pole positions, and now a race win. You would never know you completely... There it is. There's the picture on RJ's camera. Look at that.
I had to get that. I had to just get that off the phone, because I know I can't screen share from here, but that's a good photo. Y'all, Jorge Martin... Wow. Whoa.
And as a side note, Premac's first win.
20 years of trying, 20 years
of frustration.
Pramac's first ever Grand Prix victory after this is their 20th season in Grand Prix motorcycle racing. They first debuted in 2002, and this is their first
about damn
ever
time.
Yeah, they've come close plenty of times. Nurtured some great talent. No one in the field deserved their first win more than Pramac did. They've been banging on that door for a couple of years now.
How many second places do they have just this year via Zarco? Like
3 or 4. Like 3 or 4 alone. They had plenty in previous with Jack Miller and Danilo Petrucci when he was riding for him as well. As far back as maybe 2014, we had Petrucci on the podium for Pramac, but never a win. How impressive was that, fellas? Because that was scintillating stuff.
perfect all weekend for
Martinez.
qualifying to the race. Held his nerve against the reigning world champion, did not break. Came a little close with the track limits, but, you know.
Yeah.
Ooh, a lot of people did this weekend.
Yeah.
Sometimes the sensors were actually going off when people weren't going off the track.
That's fine.
Normal stewarding process. Jorge Martin was fantastic. He is good. He is damn good. And all that talent pool at KTM, and they let this one slip through the cracks. Might be the best one of all.
More on that later.
However, I have to pitch this question to everyone here. This is the Red Bull Ring. Ducati's playground. They barely beat a Suzuki and a Yamaha around here.
What can I tell you? That Suzuki ride height adjusting device, that's no joke.
No, Mir couldn't do anything with him just from sheer horsepower discrepancy. But, geez, Martin had to ride out of his skin to keep that win.
It's a good thing they did, because that was brilliant. But yeah, you're right, Cam. Like this is a track that is tailor-made for Ducati.
That was supreme. But if you look at the rest of the Ducatis, Zarco was fifth and you know, was making errors at the end of the race. Bagnaia put on the wrong set of tyres and fell all the way down the order from a front row start.
He was leading the first run of this race. He got robbed.
He got robbed. He didn't have a new set of tyres to put on after the red flag. He made the exact same blunder that Mir made last year in a race he was leading. And that did him in. Same problem there. And Miller binned it at turn 7.
He potentially put his championship hopes on the floor.
Yeah, back-to-back DNFs for Jack Miller. So yeah, bad news where that's concerned.
I don't think the Ducati bike is just equipped to go for a championship. It's all horsepower and vibes. It doesn't corner, it doesn't stop, it beats its tires to death. And the only two riders who seem to be able to force it to turn are Martin and Bagnaia. And they're destroying their front tires to do so.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a big problem, and they're not going to win a title this way. As Quartararo is just going to keep racking up these podiums, these good results.
The real winner was third place.
Yeah, again, not for the first time this season either. Fabio was celebrating third like a win because he knew that championship-wise, Martin's not a threat, and Mir's 50 points back. So,
Sigma grind set.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Now, of course, a lot because of the fire in the red flag. A lot of people talked about the nature of safety at the Red Bull Ring. Some of the riders actually made complaints in the media that the track had not been improved all that much. What
we should talk about first and foremost regarding safety is the threat of rain and the fact that we were looking at a rider strike. If it rained on race day, we were looking at the riders sitting this one out.
Yeah, because this track is what we've mentioned before. Barely okay in the dry, in the wet, lack of runoffs, incredibly high speed. If somebody loses it at high speed in the rain,
turn 2 hits different when you have half the wheels to work with.
So
yeah, that's something for those who might not be familiar with the bike side of this track. Turn 2, what we're talking about is not the sharp right-hander, because actual turn 2 is such a non-event in cars that you don't even really think about it. Right. On bikes, you are constantly turning for a few seconds, and the bike is under load, and you're approaching that corner at an angle at about 190 miles per hour for the really fast bikes.
Have you ever played Grand Valley Speedway in a Gran Turismo game? It's like that, only it's scarier.
Yeah, yes. Very much so. So there's been a potential solution offered by the track itself, and as RJ's very handily put in picture form, a potential chicane between turns 2 and 3 has been proposed to reduce some of the speed. This is the fastest track we go to on average speed on the calendar. What do you guys make of it, and is it the potential solution to make things safer?
Well, it's not really between turns 2 and 3. It's exactly where turn 2 is. It would effectively eliminate it.
Yeah, you'd be turning turn 2 into a chicane, essentially. So
I don't like it because I think there's a better solution that we talked about last year when we had the monster crash that almost, right, let's call a spade, probably would have killed both Yamaha riders. The notion of putting a chicane there seems to be this idea of fast track bad. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that. What I would like to see instead is the track run on, and there's more than enough room to do this, run on straight as the track starts to pull to the left on that run up towards turn 3, towards turn 2 and turn 3. Instead of pulling left for turn 2, go straight on, and then copy turn 3 now and place that on as the transition between that straight after turn 1 and the back straight. The DRS straight for Formula 1.
That wouldn't be possible due to the elevation changes at the venue itself, and then the need to build runoff area behind that, and there's a building in that area.
Mm-hmm. So, is this chicane the answer?
I think it's a decent solution. Obviously, it'll slow down the bikes, but it would also thin out the bikes. You wouldn't have people side by side through 2 anymore.
Yeah. Which that can be a problem. I mean, goodness knows, we're already like trying to think of ways that we could break up the Moto 3 pack, because as fun as that is, that's also really fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
Side note, if you've not seen Matt Oxley's latest piece in collaboration with Jürgen van der Gerber, go out of your way to read it. It's a fascinating read on a potential way to make Moto 3 a bit safer. I'll give you a hint. It's to do with the gearboxes. Might surprise you on that one, but give it a read. It's a very, very good piece from Matt Oxley. Yeah, one of the best in the biz, Matt Oxley. I'm looking at it and I go, that could work. Like, that, you'd actually open up another overtaking opportunity as well, and most importantly, you wouldn't have 2 bikes going side by side through 2 at 190 like we had with Zarco and Morbidelli last year. And that was what caused that hellacious wreck. That and the fact that obviously the bikes fan back out onto the track, and then they've done a bit to fix that with extending the wall all the way up to the apex of turn 3 now, to try and mitigate some of that problem. But
Suzuka's had to do the same, of course. Like the run out of the hairpin through Spoon, there's a chicane that they've installed there, and that's helped out a lot for the bikes. I agree with Cam that, like, if it were logistically possible, you could just straighten out and dull out and make a new turn 3 out of it. But if it's not logistically possible, this could work. I also don't necessarily describe the idea that fast track bad either.
No. Yeah. The overall speed is not the problem with the Red Bull Ring. It's the lack of runoff. And
it's that specific run through. It's turn 2, which again, a non-event in cars, because in cars you have a whole lot more tire to work with.
Yeah.
Here, it's a legitimate, and not only is it a legitimate corner, it's, by that stage of the straight, over 175 miles per hour.
Right. It's crazy. Right. One more question before we get out of here. This was the other story that came out of MotoGP this weekend, and it was a bit of a hot one because it came up in the middle of FP2, which kind of surprised everybody. That KTM made it official that Raul Fernandez, who's second in the Moto2 championship right now, is coming up with Tech 3 next year. So the current Moto2 team is going straight up together to be the new Tech 3 team next year. They're cleaning the decks at Tech 3. Lecuona and Petrucci are gone. Gardner and Fernandez are in. This apparently caused a lot of tension within the KTM camp. Hervé Poncharal was not happy. He mentioned that...
Never one to mince words.
No, I've got the quote in front of me here, actually, about Hervé Poncharal. Hervé Poncharal is one of the most honest dudes in MotoGP. And he said, and I quote, There are still some moves behind the scenes from some managements there are some reflections. I'd like to tell you all is clear. It is contractually speaking, but we will wait to see how things will evolve. So
that is the most. That is the most. I'm just here so I won't get fined answer I think I've ever heard out of him.
You could tell he was pulling his punches on that one. Apparently, Raul Fernandez wasn't best pleased. He was keen to actually stay in Moto2 for next year. And Yamaha were about to activate the €500,000 release clause in his contract to snag him for the Petronas team for next year.
They would have had to buy him out of the contract. Yamaha was willing to put the money down to buy him out.
I just love
KTM.
This is on paper a huge improvement to get Fernandez on your team, and for reasons that have nothing to do with sheer talent, this move has gone down poorly.
With everyone involved except KTM themselves, who, their hands were tied. They had to do something because Raul Fernandez is pretty good on a motorcycle, in case you haven't noticed. And they were about to lose him, and they panicked.
Yeah. They're like, just promote him now. We can't lose him to Yamaha. Don't care what Tech 3 thinks. Don't care what Fernandez thinks. You're going up. You're going up, son.
You're going up.
Yep. Screw Leccarona, screw Petrucci, and screw Tech 3. And that is where the controversy lies here, because, Tech 3 is less of a satellite and more of a Factory 2 electric boogaloo for KTM.
Yeah, pretty much.
But you don't want to be pissing off the people who run your race team and the people who are still riding for your race team, because word out of the paddock is Petrucci wanted to fight everybody after this was announced.
He was pissed.
I get the impression that Danilo Petrucci is not a man who wants to go is in the Stay Ready Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
By all accounts, no, but he was those hands were rated E for everyone.
Yeah, he was apparently incensed at the news because Petrucci's only been there for one season. He's going to be a one and done guy at Tech 3. And then on the other side of the coin, when they told Ike Lepona, apparently he broke down in tears. Poor guy. Still only 21 years old. It's easy to forget that he's been in the sport.
And has shown improvement this year.
And genuinely been okay this season. But apparently he broke down in tears when he found out the news he was going to lose his job. And it looks like Petrux is done in the top flight altogether. It's looking like he might be heading over to World Superbike. He's also shown intrigue in the Dakar, apparently. So that could be one to keep an eye on. But I want King's perspective. He's the day one KTM stan, self-nicknamed on our Discord server. What did you make of that hot mess over there with your mans? All of your mans.
Hey, as long as Yamaha don't get him, I don't care.
Wow!
As he pulls up his drink, you ruthless bastard. I love it.
Response if there ever was one.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, it's a messy situation there now, because, look, on pure talent next year, KTM are stacked. Miguel Oliveira, Brad Binder, Remy Gardner, and Raul Fernandez is an incredible
across their two
fleet of
teams, they might have the best, well of talent across the whole sport.
There's a genuine argument you can make for that. I wouldn't laugh you out of the room if you made that suggestion to me. And then, Binder's on a 3-year deal. And that's already tricky to work with, in case somebody else comes along. They let Jorge Martin slip through their fingers in the first place. And there's one other problem. The man who won in Moto3 this weekend. Pedro Acosta. Again.
Pedro Acosta.
He's won 5 of these this season.
They're not going to rush him up and have him skip Moto2, but, he's going to
not 18.
Real quick.
Yeah,
he's not old enough to do that. However, in a couple of years, they're going to have a problem.
I say this all the time about F1 driver academies, and it applies to, KTM and MotoGP, where it's it doesn't really matter if you have too many riders for too few seats. Your job here is not to get riders seats. Your job here is to get the best riders in the seats you have. If someone loses out, well, it sucks for them, but you got your end of the deal done.
Well, you can say it sucks for them, but Jorge Martin just won his first race. It's backfiring right in your face.
Well, but on the other end of the coin, Miguel Oliveira's won 3 for KTM since he got there. So, it kind of works both ways. Like, Oliveira's got 3 MotoGP wins already, and Brad Binder has a win to his name as well. So we can't say it's not working to it.
They're not only building the perfect team, they're building the perfect competitors to that team.
And, again, it's all about filling needs, not supply and demands.
Yeah, very true. But I wonder how pissed off Fernandez is knowing he can't ride for a Yamaha next year. That must suck a little bit, given that Yamaha were literally about to hand over the Money in the Bank briefcase and activate that race.
Him on a Petronas Yamaha would have been a very interesting prospect for next year.
Oh boy!
And he's going to be running down in 12th on a KTM.
We'll see. Because KTM blow hot and cold. Oliveira was a bit out of sorts this weekend because before the summer break he was on fire.
I think he had a mechanical issue during the race.
He did. He had a bad wrist as well because he had a nasty high slide on Friday too. But KTM stacked to say the least. And hey, it's a good problem to have. But that'll do it for this week's episode of Motorsport 101. We'll be back next week. We have the Formula E season finale at Tempelhof, where one of 18 different drivers can win the championship. Good luck.
We're gonna narrow it we're gonna narrow it down by a lot by the end of Saturday.
Yeah. Remember, race 2, we're going backwards. That's going to be fun. I do not envy the track organisers on that one. I'll have you know. But 18 dudes can still win the Formula E Championship this weekend. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. We'll talk all about that season finale next week. And we've got MotoGP in Austria. We're going back to back. We have a second MotoGP race in Austria. So that'll be talked about as well. And apparently there's some endurance race going on next weekend.
Yeah, and some guy in a souped-up Chevy is going to be doing it for Dale.
Our man
Jordan Taylor, Rodney Sandstorm himself with the Dale Earnhardt helmet.
Beautiful.
You can't even see on television because it's a closed cockpit.
No, we gotta wait for the onboards. We gotta wait for the onboards.
So it's a Corvette. There will be onboards that we won't be able to watch because the coverage in the United States is terrible, no good, and very bad. But hey, at least this year we'll have legitimate storylines and intrigue in the top class rather than which Toyota wins by how many laps.
Indeed. So there'll be a full preview of the Le Mans 24 Hours next week as well. But until then, basically you can find us before we get out of here. YouTube.com/Motorsport101. Subscribe if you haven't already. Facebook.com/Motorsport101. We're on Twitter at Motorsport_101. Our personal handles are on the screen right now at Harrison101HD, at Ryan Eric King, at CBuckley917, at RJ O'Connell. We're on Instagram at Motorsport101pod. Our website, motorsport101.com, where I've written about a bunch of stuff as well. I gushed over Hungary. It's well worth a read if you're into that soppy shit. But we're also on Patreon, patreon.com/motorsport101. $5 gets you early access to all of our audio shows. 10 for the supporters club of our Discord server. Live recordings and video versions on demand as well. We'll be back next week to preview the greatest race in all of motorsport. ? Oh, and Le Mans too. Until then, I've been Andre Harrison. They've been Cam Buckley, RJ O'Connell, and Ryan Eric King. I'm going to now run away. Sayonara.
Start running.
I'm not perverted. I'm Irish, y'all. Please have respect for others if you are going to be a pervert like that. Don't be an Andrew Cuomo.
If you're going to be a pervert, be a respectful pervert. RJ O'Connell 2021.